Hi, and welcome back to Focal Point AFR Talk. Brian Fisher is my name. Great to have you in the conversation today, and I'm honored to welcome to our decision maker line Tricia Erickson. Tricia Erickson is a political commentator. Her father was a bishop in the Mormon Church. She grew up in the Mormon Church. She wrote a book that was published during the election campaign, Can Mitt Romney Serve Two Masters? The Mormon Church versus the Office of the Presidency of the United States of America. We talked with Tricia during the campaign about the role that Governor Romney played in normalizing same-sex marriage in the United States. He virtually imposed same-sex marriage on the United States of America by executive fiat when he was the governor of Massachusetts. He had no legal warrant to order county clerks to issue same-sex marriage licenses, but he went ahead and did it anyway. He ordered them to break the law. Supreme Court said the current law against same-sex marriage in Massachusetts is unconstitutional. They gave the legislature 180 days to do something about it. They did precisely nothing. Mitt Romney just went ahead and ordered these licenses to be issued, even though state law, I've gone and looked it up and read it myself. County clerks are not allowed to issue any marriage licenses except in accordance with the laws of the Commonwealth. Not in accordance with a ruling from the Supreme Court, not in accordance with some kind of diktat from the governor, but in accordance with the laws of the Commonwealth. And Mitt Romney says, you don't do it, I'm going to fire you. You're going to lose your job. If you uphold the Constitution and the laws of the state of Massachusetts, that will be a fireable offense. So Mitt Romney is the godfather of same-sex marriage in the United States, and Tricia Erickson helped bring that to light back during the campaign. Tricia, welcome back to Focal Point with Brian Fisher.
Hi, Brian. Thanks for having me back. I wanted to mention on that note that I think your listeners might want to know that two of Mitt's great-grandfathers had 5 wives, and at least one of his great-grandfathers, Parley Pratt, had 12 wives. And Mitt Romney's own father, former Mission Governor George Romney, was born in Chihuahua, Mexico, where the Mormons fled in the 1800s to escape religious persecution for polygamy and the U.S. laws for forbidding polygamy. So he has a history of, he's a diehard, true-to-the-wool Mormon. You can't get more Mormon than Mitt Romney. And I was going to bring this up, and you already brought it up, that he fathered gay marriage to America. So he is true to the prophet of the church. He is true to the Mormon church. They have prophesied that polygamy will be reestablished in the millennium when Jesus comes back to earth, that they will rule the earth through the government of God of Mormonism, hand in hand with Jesus Christ from the Garden of Eden in Jackson County, Missouri. And then a polygamy will be established during that millennium, reestablished during the millennial reign.
Now, I want to be sure, I want to be very clear here. We have worked with people in the Mormon church. I'm talking here to a listening audience, not to Tricia. But we have worked with people in the Mormon church to protect the institution of marriage. In California, the Mormon church was instrumental in passing Proposition 8, and evangelicals worked hand in glove with them. We commended them for what they did. At that time, they took a lot of abuse for their stand for marriage. When I worked on our marriage amendment in Idaho in 2006, I worked hand in glove with many people in the LDS community who wanted to support the institution of marriage. I facilitated them giving testimony before our state legislature to protect the institution of marriage. So we have worked closely with members of the LDS church that believe in the institution of national marriage. And I think many people in the pews, even today, Tricia, still believe in the institution of natural marriage. But the concern that I have, and this is something that you've expressed, we've got a piece at One News Now, our news site, people can go to and look this up. You have advanced a theory, something that I have been suggesting for some time, because I have observed that the Mormon church has gone virtually silent on the issue of homosexuality and homosexual marriage. In fact, they are sending very gay-friendly signals right now from the headquarters of the LDS church. We've had gay marriage amendments that have been fought in different states since Proposition 8. The Mormon church has not weighed in on those. They've been virtually silent. And they came out in support of this policy change on the part of the Boy Scouts of America. They embraced it, and they welcomed it, and they applauded the change that the Boy Scouts made to bring homosexuals as scouts into the program, despite the fact that some of the biggest scouting scandals, pedophilia scandals, have been in scout troops that are managed by the Mormon church. And you've got a theory that I've mentioned before, Tricia, that I came up with, and it was independent to see that you, it's striking to me to see that independently you'd come up with the same kind of thinking. And again, this is just a theory, but what is your sort of educated guess about what might be behind this movement away from, by the LDS hierarchy, not talking about the people in the pews, the LDS hierarchy, away from a vigorous defense of natural marriage and showing some kind of support for the homosexual movement?
Because their prophecies say that polygamy is a righteous cause ordained by their God on his planet, and that polygamy, there has always been a prophecy that polygamy would be reestablished on the earth again. So if I might give you some backfill, because it's confusing, because they were such supporters, they fought feverishly for Prop 8, and then they turned around on this Boy Scout issue, and now you'll see them turn on gay marriage as well because of their agenda. But when they helped with Prop 8, they were like an oddity to America. They knew, they're very strategic, they knew that they needed to ingratiate themselves into the Christian, because they wanted to segue that the people of America would think that they're Christian now, whereas Christians used to be the great and abominable church to Mormons. But they wanted to be, they're very political, and they came in and they wanted to be thought as just another mainstream religion. So they found a way into the conservative leaders of our country through Prop 8. So they came in and they fought vigorously against Prop 8. They did a lot of good, and they, I mean, I don't think anybody could have gotten as far as they got without the Mormons on Prop 8. However, they accomplished their purpose of becoming more perceived as more mainstream through fighting for Prop 8. Now in this day and time, what they are doing is they are preparing for the millennium. See, they believe that when Jesus Christ comes back to earth, I mentioned this, he'll come back to the Garden of Eden, they think is in Jackson County, Missouri, that the Mormon Church will rule the world hand in hand with Jesus Christ through the government of God of Mormonism. They also believe that polygamy will be reestablished at that time or before that time on the earth. And so that's why you have the about face. Now they're back to fulfilling their own false prophecy, because if polygamy is passed, there's nothing to say that they can't. It'll be a approved legal practice to bring polygamy back. You will see it running rampant through the Mormon Church. They will be the soldiers on the ground with the first polygamous marriages. They already have polygamists everywhere, but they're not legal. And then through that, they'll establish polygamy, and they believe with all their heart that that's another sign that God's coming back and they're getting ready to rule the earth through the government of God. So, but if this passes, there's nothing to say that they can't marry. They can't marry 3 or 4 women. And you take it further, there's nothing to prevent me from marrying my 2 sons after that. I mean, if the catch can, anybody can get married. I could probably marry my dog after that. So what
you're saying, now connecting this to the homosexual agenda, this is what I've suggested, because I have no way of knowing this is true. And Tricia, I put a call into the public affairs office at the Mormon Church this morning and left a voicemail for their public affairs, their spokesman, asking for some kind of clarification on this. My question is if the Supreme Court says polygamy is okay, will the Mormon Church resume the practice of polygamy? And the connection with the homosexual agenda, as I see it, I want to see if this is what you're thinking, is that what they are seeing is that the way the dominoes are falling, homosexual marriage, the barrier to that has now been removed, and everybody is saying that the next domino to fall is going to be the barrier, the ban on polygamy. That's the next logical target. You've got columns on places like Salon.com arguing for polygamy. The godfather of same-sex marriage in Holland is now saying that polygamy is the next target for those that are pursuing this kind of agenda. And so is that what you're thinking, that the LDS Church sees the way the drift is going and sees that maybe through the advance of the homosexual agenda, polygamy may come back and be legalized once again in America?
No question about it. And as I said, they feel like it's going to be a prophecy come true, because all of the prophets, the former prophets, prophesied on everything. And they just kind of turn a blind eye to rarely, if ever, a prophecy ever came through for any of the false prophets in the Mormon Church. So this is their last bastion of hope that Bruce R. McConkie established that polygamy would be brought back in the second coming of Christ in the millennium. And so there's no doubt that it will just give them credibility. And they'll just say, see, we were telling the truth all along. And they've always said, and I always understood, I'm a Mormon bishop's daughter, or when I was growing up, my father would talk about that polygamy was just taken from the earth for a time, and that at the proper time that it will be reestablished through Mormonism on the earth.
I went to the Mormon.org, the official website for the LDS Church. They've got a frequently asked questions page on plural marriage. And here's what they say: the Lord's law of marriage is monogamy unless he commands otherwise. So in other words, they've left this loophole here. Christians say God's law is monogamy, period. But the LDS Church says officially the law of marriage is monogamy unless he commands otherwise, which opens the door for them to interpret a Supreme Court ruling, for instance, as saying, well, that's the Lord giving his direction, giving his permission to us to resume plural marriage.
And you will see at that time or before that time that the prophet of the Mormon Church will come out at some point and say that they're going to reestablish that the prophecy has come true, that now they're going to establish polygamy as a righteous and godly practice. In San Francisco, they have already, there's a first counselor to the bishop of 3 wards in San Francisco that is openly gay now.
Well, Tricia, I appreciate very much you taking time to be with us. Our guest has been Tricia Erickson, political commentator and author of the book, Can Mitt Romney Serve Two Masters, as well as other books. You can find out more about her by going to Tricia Erickson, Tricia Erickson, ERICKSON.Tumblr, TUMBLR.com. Tricia, thank you for being with us. God bless you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Focal Point After Talk, back in 2.